Welcome to The Explainer. Today we're exploring a deeply resonant concept from Fletcher's journey. We're looking at the web of life, and specifically those early, quiet, mystical openings that really shape who we become. We so often think of mystical experiences as these massive, lightning bolt moments of profound revelation, right? But take a second and just think about your own past. When did the world first speak to you? I mean, way before the heavy responsibilities of adulthood, before the complex relationships and the endless to-do lists piled up, there were likely these small, beautifully ordinary childhood moments that just felt surprisingly alive. As we'll unpack today, these initial threads, they carry this strange electricity, and they gently pull us toward the paths we are absolutely meant to walk. To really get this deeper layer, the text introduces a fascinating cosmic perspective through the voice of Zoran the dragon. He says, "Every soul receives its first whisper of the living universe in youth." So these non-dramatic openings, they aren't just random chance occurrences or tricks of a child's memory. According to Zoran, they are actually the Tao, the fundamental living nature of the universe itself, literally introducing itself to us. They're the guardians of balance, revealing their quiet presence way before we ever have the vocabulary to even know their names. Okay, let's dive into this with a deeply grounded example from the author's own life. One of his absolute earliest teachers was the ocean itself. While out surfing, and yeah, probably wiping out more than a few times, he didn't just feel water beneath his board. He actually sensed the ocean as a playful, highly conscious participant. It was alive. Through the physical rhythm of the rising and falling waves, he organically learned Wu Wei, which is the ancient concept of surrender and non-action. He was learning balance and active participation with nature, long before he ever picked up a single philosophical text about it. And Zoran provides this brilliant cosmic lens for what was essentially a very earthly experience. He observes the ocean is one of the oldest expressions of yin and yang. I mean, just think about it. The waves themselves are the visible breath of the universe. It's a continuous, eternal cycle of expansion and contraction, rising and falling. Simply by paddling out into the surf, the author was absorbing these profound lessons. He was learning the Tao through nothing more than salt water and sunlight. He was remembering, very early on, that nature isn't just some painted backdrop. It is entirely conscious. Now, another pivotal thread in this intricate web comes from a really visceral childhood memory, rescuing a trembling, helpless kitten from imminent danger. It was one of those split-second decisions, the kind only a kid makes without overthinking all the consequences. But the lasting impact wasn't actually the rescue itself. It was the sudden, overwhelming surge of compassion that followed. It was a profound, full-body realization that life is incredibly fragile and deeply, deeply interconnected. We're responsible for one another, not because some parent or teacher told us it's an obligation, but out of a pure, spontaneous recognition of shared life. And this brilliantly illustrates a profound cosmic truth that Zoran points out here. He notes, saving the kitten was not an act of kindness. It was an act of remembrance. This kind of spontaneous compassion, where you instinctively see your own life reflected in another vulnerable being, is the very first sign of human awakening. It's a deep, deep remembering of our inherent interconnectedness, which is something we feel right in our bones, long before religion or society steps in and tries to formalize it for us. Then, another major opening happened a bit further from home during a grade school trip to Europe. For a child at that specific time, this was a rare and just immense experience. Being suddenly immersed in totally different cultures, hearing completely new languages spoken in the streets, and observing entirely different ways of daily living, it completely cracked open his foundational sense of the world. It brought on this sudden, staggering realization that reality is vastly bigger, infinitely more complex, and wonderfully more colorful than just a single neighborhood or a single country. Zoran maps this earthly travel experience perfectly onto the cosmic scale. He explains, travel is yang expansion, but it also awakens yin. See, when you travel, you're actively stretching your mind, your senses, and your identity. That's that active, outward-moving yang energy. But simultaneously, standing wide-eyed in the middle of a vast unfamiliar world, well, that sparks deep humility and curiosity. That quiet recognition of your own smallness is the receptive yin energy. For the author, this childhood trip was his very first conscious taste of the global breath. But it's not just places, it's people too. Throughout the author's youth, specific mentors, individuals like Joan Condon, Bob Wentz, Paul Cohen, and others,
seemed to just organically appear at exactly the right moments. These individuals didn't need to be intensely sought out, they simply arrived, and every single one brought a unique, essential gift. Maybe it was a new perspective, a practical skill, a fresh way of seeing the world, or literally a vital piece of a puzzle he didn't even know he was trying to solve. They were gentle guides, quietly shaping his trajectory.
Now, what's really interesting about this is that these weren't just random people passing through a busy life. The source material reveals that these specific encounters, these unexpected gifts, were actually essential seeds being carefully planted. They were fundamentally designed to prepare the author for the intense polarity cycles and the really deep spiritual initiations he would inevitably have to navigate much, much later in life.
Zoran the Dragon frames this dynamic so beautifully. He states, "Mentors are not accidents. They are guardians of balance." As humans, we so often operate under this illusion that we have to actively go out, search for, and find our teachers. But the profound truth revealed here is completely the reverse. We don't find our teachers find us. They carry exactly the lesson, the challenge, or the gift we need, and they step into our lives precisely when the web of our life requires that exact input.
So, the crucial point is how all these disparate elements actually weave together. When we look at the living ocean, the rescued trembling kitten, the mind-expanding trip to Europe, and the sudden, timely appearance of those mentors, they might initially seem like totally isolated, disconnected childhood memories. But they are absolutely not. They are deeply connected threads. Together, they reveal that a deliberate web was being woven by something much larger, a gentle intelligence that was guiding the author's life, systematically teaching him how to see, how to feel, and how to truly listen.
And this brings us to a stunningly beautiful closing thought from Zoran. He reminds us, before the great challenges, the universe shows you its gentleness. The Tao teaches us through beauty and subtle wonder early on. It lays down a foundational bedrock of softness. Why? Well, so that later in life, when the inevitable heartbreaks, the tough initiations, and the fierce storms of polarity actually hit you, you will have that deep bodily memory of the universe's inherent gentleness to anchor you. It reminds you of the quiet softness that exists right beneath the storm. Let's move to your own journey and see how this builds directly into your life. The text invites you to create an entry in your own dragon's ledger through a kind of mystical inquiry. What moment first made you feel the world was truly alive? What specific experience taught you compassion? Who appeared right when you needed them most? And what early adventure expanded your reality? I highly encourage you to take a moment today, sit down, and actually write these answers out. Connect your own dots. As we wrap up our explainer today, I want to leave you with this single, lingering question to reflect upon. When did the world begin speaking to you? Because if you take the time to look closely enough at the quiet, subtle, and seemingly ordinary moments of your youth, you might just find that the universe has been communicating with you, guiding your steps, and intricately weaving your unique web of life from the very beginning.